and welcome to the Great at Everything podcast, where we provide awareness, activation, and action plans to help you become great at everything. Everything you are called to and nothing you aren't. I am your host, Maya Wilson, and in this episode, I'm going to share 3 things you can do to arise as a leader during uncertain times. As many of you know, we are in the midst of a pandemic, not just within the United States, but of course, globally, across the world, there is a current pandemic. And I'm sure you know about all of the things that are happening, not only from the disease or the virus itself, but also the situations and things that are arising out of the pandemic. Now, because we have a pandemic, that doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't other things going on in the world. There are definitely other news articles about things going on in the world that are productive, that are peaceful, and that are showing that progress is being made. One example is the fact that a second person has been cured of HIV. So just because we have a pandemic or anytime there is uncertainty, that does not mean that everything is all about panic and doom. However, the 3 tips that I'm going to share with you will tell you and show you how you can either arise as a leader when there are uncertain times and or stand firm in your leadership when there are uncertain times. Naturally, as a leader, people are going to look to you and be able to understand things, understand how they should be acting and reacting. So it is very important for you as a leader, remain in the leadership role when things are uncertain. So let's jump right into the tips about how you can lead and or arise as a leader in times of uncertainty. Number 1 is to be grounded. You have to know who you are. We've been building a foundation of leadership, and I hope that you would know that by now, that leadership is really, that is the basic foundation of leadership, is really knowing who you are. So when it comes to time of uncertainty, when you know who you are, you can stand firm in your faith, you can know what you believe, and you know what truth is. This keeps you from panicking, overspending, and coming out of character. When you are a leader and you are strong and grounded in who you are, regardless of what is going on around you, regardless of the people and the things around you, you will remain in character. You will remain a leader regardless of the situation and circumstances around you. I'm sure you've seen the news articles about people panicking, people going out and buying all these different types of supplies. But you as a leader, I certainly hope, if you have been listening to this podcast for any amount of time, I certainly hope that I have been influencing you to get solid in who you are and to not be one of those people who is going out just overspending, panic spending, and buying things that in some situations and circumstances are just very unnecessary. And even in some situations, just very selfish. So you as a leader, when things happen and you are grounded, you are able to lead with calmness, lead with certainty, and just be grounded in order to effectively influence and impact the people that see you, that know you, and that understand that they can look to you for guidance during times of uncertainty, but definitely even during times of productivity and progress. So that was number 1, be grounded. Number 2 is to be unmovable. And this is about standing firm in what you know and in your beliefs. It's one thing to know who we are and be grounded in that. But when it comes to being unmovable, it really means that you turn up your light. When an uncertainty happens in the world, you turn up your light. You don't just stay who you are. You don't just dim the light. You actually turn up the light so that you can be the person that says, well, this is what's going on in the world, but this is what the truth is. This is what the facts say, but this is what I know to be the case. You can be the light in the midst of the darkness when you are unmovable. So if one day you're standing and you're saying, like, yes, God is great, God is awesome, all of these great things, and people see you as a leader and they're being influenced and impacted by you. But then the next day when uncertainty comes, you're full of doom and gloom, and you're not really sure where God is in the situation, and you're not really sure what the outcome in the end game is going to be. That's not being unmovable. That's being moved by the situation and circumstances. So you really have to be unmovable to say, yes, I understand what's going on in the world. Yes, I have compassion for the people who are becoming sick and losing their lives. But at the same time, I understand that this is an opportunity for me to turn up the light. This is an opportunity for me to stand firm in what I know and believe. This is the opportunity for revival to break out. This is the opportunity for me to evangelize and tell people that I can be peaceful, I can be calm, I can navigate this situation with peace and certainty because of who I am, because of the God I serve, because of the things that I know based on what I know about God. So that's what it means to be unmovable. It does not mean being neutral. It does not mean turning down the light. It definitely means I'm going to turn from 1,000 up to 2,000. I'm going to be the person bring peace and productivity and positiveness, even in the midst of uncertainty and even in the midst of dark times. As I stated, it's not about being uncompassionate. Definitely, you can have compassion and still be unmoved. You can have authority and power and still be unmoved. You can have people around you. You can have things around you that you don't understand, that you don't know about, but you can still be unmoved. So number 2, in order to lead in uncertain times, you have to be unmovable. The third piece of this is you have to be a solution. This goes along with point number 2, because when you become a solution, you're not just sharing the news articles talking about what's going on in the world. You're not just talking about all the toilet tissue and paper towels that are missing in the grocery store. You're becoming a solution. You're actually giving people solutions that can help them through their problems. You're actually giving people solutions to tell them, hey, maybe take a social media break. Maybe stop reading all the news articles. Maybe take an assessment of what do you really need in your house versus going out and buying just extra because of whatever someone said or whatever someone thinks about what is going to happen. When you show up as a solution, you allow people, especially the people who don't necessarily know and understand that fear is being planted within them, you allow those people to take on peace and faith instead of fear. So when you show up as a solution, this means that you automatically increase your influence and your impact because you are not the same voice. You are showing up with a different voice. You're saying, hey, if your local area is out of toilet tissue and paper towels, maybe you can just wash your hands and dry with a towel. Maybe you can just use wipes. And I know in some situation, wipes are even being kind of bought up in excess and all of that great stuff. But when you show up as a solution, you allow people to see that the situation is not as crazy and not as fearful as it's being made to seem. If you're going to be in your home for an extended period of time, how realistic is it that you're going to be washing your hands that often? Probably not. You're not coming into contact with anybody or anything if you are in your home. So there really is not a major need for you to excessively wash your hands. Therefore, you don't need to go buy all the paper towels that are on the paper towel aisle because that's not necessarily what you're going to encounter. How much do you really need versus what are you just buying out of selfishness? And I won't even talk about the people who are buying supplies and then turning around and selling them. I won't even talk about that. But when you show up as a solution, you allow people to decrease the panic and the fear that they experience. So definitely, when you show up with things like that to say, hey, if you're going to be at home or maybe your children are out of school, but nobody's sick, what is the realistic amount of paper towels that you need? If you're not going to be encountering anyone, how much paper towel usage are you really going to have? Think about the other side of it as well. If you're going to buy paper towels and you want to take precautions, maybe there are some vitamins, maybe there are some fruits and vegetables that you need to be eating and smoothies that you need to be drinking during this time. One example is in my local area. I went to the grocery store yesterday and it bewildered me. Not only were the paper towels and the toilet tissue and all of that great stuff gone, but when I came to the food in the produce aisle, there was ground turkey, but there was no chicken, there was no ground beef, there was no pork chops. There was none of the stuff that ideally would be healthier for you. Same thing when I went into the produce section. I love fruits and I love juices that are made with natural ingredients. So sometimes the ginger and apples and things of that nature. So it was plenty of that stuff. It was plenty of fruit. It was plenty of greens and vegetables. It was plenty of salads. It was plenty of the things that can help you cut down and prevent your exposure or prevent the spread of certain of those things. Now, in the supplement aisle, I will say that certain things like the elderberry and the echinacea and all of that good stuff, it was some left, but it wasn't completely depleted. So again, my mind went to, what is the solution here? If you're going to buy all of the red meats, if you're going to buy all of the things that don't necessarily help you fight or prevent the disease, then why is it on the other side you're still buying paper towels? It's almost as if people are preparing to become sick. And that should never be the case, especially for you if you are a Christian and someone who is established in the faith. You should never be preparing for the worst case scenario. Yes, we can use logic. Yes, we can use common sense, but you should never be in a panic mode to where you're planning for the worst case scenario. So that's how you show up and be a solution. You really just give people a different perspective. And for me, I am a person who is big into technology and business. A lot of my solutions, although I don't have the platform right now to share them, but prayerfully that will change in the future, my solutions come at a higher level. I see how certain things are put in place at higher levels within the government, within the state organizations, but I see the impact all the way down to the individual level. So I think sometimes even in our planning, we're not doing the risk management. We're not doing the change management. We're not doing the crisis management that will allow things to flow smoothly. My church, for example, did a live stream on today. Is March 15th, Sunday, March 15th of 2020. My church did a live stream. So both Facebook and YouTube were steady buffering. And I'm pretty sure, or actually, I'm not even pretty sure, I know for a fact a lot of churches did live streaming instead of encouraging people to come into the service so they could minimize and limit the exposure, which I'll come back to that in a second because that is another whole piece of this. However, with all the live streams, there was a lot of buffering. There was a lot of, okay, it's playing now, but now it's skipping. There was a lot going on. Now, being an engineer, working with Cisco, understanding bandwidth and all of that great stuff about technology. In my head, I was saying there is probably so many people live streaming that the technology and the platforms cannot handle all of it. So again, this is where we come out with mandates. We come out with things to either limit or prevent exposure, which are good. By no means am I attacking what was put in place, but I'm saying when that happens and no one is there to say, well, okay, when we do that, then churches are probably going to do this. How is it going to impact X, Y, and Z? When we do this, grocery stores are probably going to be impacted this way. So what are we going to do about X, Y, and Z? When we do this, schools are going to be impacted. What are we going to do about X, Y, and Z? When we do this, hospitals are going to be impacted. How are we going to go about X, Y, and Z? We do not do that level of planning. We do not do that level of preparation. And sometimes sometimes I even wonder, does anyone care to understand that those certain things exist? Now, naturally, that's just me. By default, I am a problem solver. I am a solutionist. So these things come to me naturally. Whatever your sphere of influence is, you need to be thinking about and coming up with solutions. So when your manager or someone at your job presents an issue or presents a mandate, you can step in to say, well, hey, have we thought about this? Have we thought about that? And provide solutions so that you're naturally seen as, oh my goodness, this person is a leader. This person is a problem solver. Next time when we're doing all of these discussions and we're trying to plan things behind the scene, we probably need to pull this person in because they're going to be able to see the things that we don't see. They're going to be able to address the things that we haven't even thought about. And when you naturally step up and do what is in your power and in your influence, then you're going to receive those supernatural solutions, those words of wisdom, those words of knowledge to be able to address the situation and especially the uncertain things around you. Now, I'm going to go back and talk about the whole church thing in a minute, but I'm just going to do a quick recap and give you the 3 points before I do that. So number 1 was around being grounded. Number 2, be unmovable. And number 3, be a solution. Know who you are, stand firm in who you are and what you believe. And when things come up that are in your sphere of influence, be the person that has the unpopular voice. Be the person who is addressing the reality of certain situations and not necessarily the fear and panic that is being caused in the situation. That is what you need to do in order to arise and or further your influence and impact as a leader during uncertain times. Now, naturally, this carries over even to times when things are not uncertain. This is the perfect time for you to stand up, for you to rise up and be who it is you were called to be. It is the perfect time to take to social media, especially if you were someone who has time off or you've been mandated to stay at home. This is the perfect time to go to social media and be the unpopular voice. It is the perfect time to go be the voice of reason when everyone else is spreading fear and panic. It is the perfect time to find a few people who are in like mind with you and who are saying, hey, there's no need to panic. There's no need to be cause for concern. Here's the 3, 4, 5, 10, 12 things you can do in order to get through this situation, and for you to partner with them, for you to share that knowledge, for you to be able to stand up and let your light shine brighter than everything else that is being shared and displayed in the world. This is the perfect time for you to really develop those skills and abilities that you know are part of your future. So if you are entrepreneurial, this is the perfect time. If you've been mandated to be at home, start working on that business. Start working on that plan. If you are someone who's mandated to stay at home and it's something that you really wanted to accomplish, maybe a book you wanted to read, maybe a YouTube series you wanted to create, do those things. Be the most productive and make the best use of your time. Use some balance, use some wisdom to understand what you can be doing to use your time most effectively. Now, back to the whole situation with the churches, some of them deciding to live stream, some of them deciding to close down. Again, if you've been with this podcast for any amount of time, I think that what I'm going to say is going to resonate with you. I don't think this is for you. However, I'm going to say it just for the people who may be joining for the first time or maybe only a few episodes in. Leadership requires you to make decisions based on the best information you have and the best thing that you know is going to be for everyone that you lead. I know there are certain people who critique and criticize everything that ministries and churches do. However, when you fully understand leadership and you understand the different aspects of leadership, you know that no decision is made hastily. No decision is taken lightly. And this is, of course, when I'm talking about leaders who are true leaders. I'm not talking about people who just end up in a leadership role but have no leadership characteristics. But when you actually are a leader and you have a role in leadership, Your decisions are not made hastily. Your decisions are not just at your expense. You cannot be selfish as a leader. You cannot be quick and hasty to make decisions as a leader. You have to really think about the impact involved. So me personally, I stand in judgment of no one or no ministry or no church who decided to do whatever. We have to understand that as a leader, you don't just listen for God's voice. You also listen for the voices of wisdom and the voices of reason in the people around you. You have to take the knowledge and understanding from the people who have expertise, experience, and understanding in the things that you don't. So if you are not a part of the healthcare field, if you're not in the medical field, then there are certain things that you need to get the facts. You need to get an understanding. You need to understand, what are the governors saying? What is the CDC saying? What are those people saying, and use it to weigh your decisions. You can't necessarily just say, well, we're in faith, we're just going to continue as normal. That is not necessarily wisdom. With all our wisdom that we get, we have to get understanding as well. So as a leader, if you are someone who is maybe critiquing or criticizing any church leader or whatever have you for whatever decisions they have made, just understand that there is more to it besides standing in faith and that's it. There is a certain time where you have to understand the wisdom, the facts, the understanding, and the knowledge that people in that expertise have, and then weigh it with what you have from a faith perspective in order to make the decision that is going to impact the most people in the most positive and productive manner. So that was my 2 cents. And as I stated, I don't stand in awe, I don't stand in judgment, and I don't stand in criticism of anyone, whether it be within the church and the ministry, or even some of the companies, some of the decisions that they are making. And I stand in support with a lot of the decisions. However, as I stated with the 3 tips, I do feel like we need people that are in positions and in places of influence and authority so that they can bring different perspectives and different insight to the decisions that are being made. If you take nothing else from this episode of this podcast, please know this is a time for you to step into who you were created to be. This is a time for you to bring supernatural solutions to the issues that are being faced right now. This is a time for you not to complain or not to sit and sulk about the things that are happening around you or the impacts that it has on you. This may be the perfect time, and you might be that perfect person to bring about a solution. Instead of complaining and adding to all the bickering, you could be the person to stand up and bring the solution. So please make sure that you are using your time effectively. As always, I appreciate you listening to the episodes of this podcast. My hope is that you are inspired, motivated, and fired up to arise and step into the thing that you have been predestined for. That is all for this episode. In order to stand up and be the leader and or continue being the leader during uncertain times, you need to 1, be grounded, 2, be unmovable, and 3, be a solution. And with that, I look forward to hearing about the impact that you are making in your sphere of influence. Until the next episode, don't just be great. Be great at everything you are called to and nothing you aren't.